We're to call it the BritCard. Labour think tank Labour Together has published a paper calling for a digital ID system, and I quote, a mandatory national digital identity that would be issued free of charge to all those with the right to live or work in the UK, whether they are British-born nationals or legal migrants. The BritCard would be a verifiable digital credential downloaded onto a user's smartphone, which could be instantly checked by employers or landlords using a free verifier app. What fresh hell is this, I ask myself. Does anyone remember voting for this? Or, like axing the cold weather subsidy for the elderly, rejoining the European Union by the back door, abandoning national borders, promising billions of unearned pounds to Ukraine for 100 years and supporting the genocide in Gaza, is BritCard just something else that will just happen? But I digress. Let me quote some more doggerel from the Department for the Profoundly Enraging. Quote, by introducing a mandatory, there's that mandatory word again, a mandatory universal national identity credential, BritCard, the Labour government has the opportunity to build a new piece of civic infrastructure, something that would become a familiar feature of daily life for everyone in the country. It would support better enforcement of migration rules and protect vulnerable British citizens from being wrongly denied their rights. It could end identity exclusion, resolving uncertainty and risk for those whose status is uncertain and providing a quick, secure, privacy-preserving means for everyone to verify their identity and their migration status when dealing with government, when taking up a new job or taking on property. It could lay the foundations for a fully functioning digital identity system that would in time deliver huge benefits in terms of great efficiency and better outcomes in public services, as well as being a driver of growth, building on the existing One Login and gov.uk wallet. Our polling suggests it would be immensely popular. Around 80% of the public support use of digital identity for a range of use cases. End quote. 80% support. Do they really? Even so, I'd say a majority like that would have voted for longer lockdowns as well, and mandatory jabs during the pandemic. Majorities don't get things right. The most you can reasonably say about a majority is that it's just that, a majority. As Muhammad Ali said, people run in packs because they don't feel safe alone. I run alone because I don't feel safe in packs. My blood runs cold at the thought of mandatory digital ID. As soon as I heard about it, I had a look at the mainstream media, always good for a laugh. First up was Labour-loving Guardian columnist Polly Toynbee, who incidentally went on record in 2005 that in her opinion, Tony Blair had led, quote, the best government of my political lifetime. Now, I'm not saying Blair's fingerprints are all over the BritCard, but I will say I'd be enormously surprised if he doesn't, let's say, heartily approve of the idea. But back to Toynbee and The Guardian. This week, her piece was headlined, Digital ID cards would be good for Britain and a secret weapon for Labour against reform. Papers, please, she began evocatively. Those words strike terror in 1,000 war movies, she wrote. Stasi or Gestapo officers are a breed apart from the unarmed plod who demands no ID cards from a free British people. So when the government contemplates a universal ID, it sends instinctive twitches down some spines. Though not many, times and public attitudes have changed. So have the political imperatives, for it seems that for a Labour government struggling to seize the narrative after a difficult year in power, digital ID cards and the sense of national belonging they could strengthen may just be the weapon needed to fight off the ever-rising threat of Nigel Farage's reform. Labour Together, the think tank closest to government, which has just published a paper calling for a digital ID system, a verifiable digital credential downloaded onto a user's smartphone, which could be instantly checked by employers or landlords using a free verifier app. One of its main virtues is simplification. The co-author of the foreword to the report, the Rother Valley MP Jake Richards, talks in terms of, quote, the citizen taking back control of their own data and public services. One portal, no more forgotten passwords, simple, safe, everything in one place for everyone. What's not to like? Some will protest at the apparent loss of a romantic freedom, the right to vanish and start life anew, the call of the open road, but that's a fairy tale, a fantasy of a bygone era. Everyone knows everything already. She concluded, Number 10 is not yet committed on digital ID cards, but lest anyone think Labour lacks a pride and purpose when it comes to British identity, this is the time to bring in ID cards to endow everyone with proof of their national rights. End quote. So, she says it's about citizens taking back control of their own data. I read the think tank Bumf about BritCard and I detect precisely the opposite. This to me is the final passing of all control directly to, well, not even to the government, because all of this would be outsourced to a private company operating under licence, so that there is zero democratic accountability. BritCard would link banking information, benefits, driving licence, education, health records, housing, voting rights, you name it. If it's about you, it'll be accessed via your BritCard. BritCard makes possible the tracking of your movements, what you post online, what protests you might attend, how you spend your money, and all of that data is stored forever. There would be no state-sanctioned opt-out. The paper makes plain all citizens would become digitally visible to the state across every transaction. There, in black and white, is the promise you'll be tracked every moment of every day, waking or sleeping. Contemplate, if you will, the potential of being profiled in this way, so that the state knows your views on this, that and everything, whether they align with the orthodoxy. What happens if you refuse to comply with some or other future diktat? Will you lose access to your funds? Will you have your freedom to move curtailed? BritCard is the road to a destination in which privacy itself is impossible, forbidden in fact. And as always, it's pitched as all for our own good and the ultimate C word, which is convenience. It's free, of course. And what do we know now about free stuff? If it's free, you're the product. And I say to hell with any more convenience anyway. I want no more of government's ideas of convenience than I want Alzheimer's and receiving all my food through a tube up my nose. I quote again, it could lay the foundations for a fully functioning digital identity system that would in time deliver huge benefits in terms of great efficiency and better outcomes. I say no BritCard for what it truly and obviously is, the pre-prepared, oven-ready solution that was written up before the problem it purports to solve even existed. It's my opinion that BritCard was good to go before the pandemic, certainly before the national borders were abandoned and the process began of shepherding into Britain hundreds of thousands of migrants. All the while people up and down the country were provoked to outrage by the impacts on their traditional communities, by the revelations about decades of child rape. All the while the chaos was being incited and stoked, BritCard, or something indistinguishable from it in any measurable way, was there waiting. All that's really happened here, I say, is that the decision has been taken that the time to unveil BritCard has finally arrived. I say that if we let this happen, then all of the mechanisms for totalitarianism are handed to government and to the transnational corporations and unelected bureaucracies and three-letter agencies pulling their strings. By means such as this, the rights our predecessors fought and died for are transformed into privileges we may or may not be granted, conditional upon every aspect of our behaviour. If you were looking for a hill to die on, it might as well be this one. The Brit in BritCard has nothing to do with Britain, but it rhymes with another word, altogether more descriptive of it.